Hi everybody, it's Kyle. This week I'm going to talk to you about really what was a defining moment in my life and really kind of changed a lot of my perspective for me. And this video is one of the videos in the Thrive in Chaos series of videos, which is enjoying things in the moment. And so in this one we call an aha moment, because I'll never forget what happened. When my son Eric was about 8 years old, he was still in diapers. At that time I had newborn twins, and Ricky was in diapers, and Eric at 8 was in diapers. Way too many diapers around our house, right? And I remember one day we were at church, and we were all sitting on a pew, and we're sitting there, and just a horrible smell wafted towards me. And I remember looking down and seeing my wife down there, and she looked at me and she said, she mouthed it to me, she said, "Is that Eric?" And I said, "Yeah, it's not me," right? It was kind of funny that she would, of course it wasn't me, right? But she said, she looked at me with this look that said, "Please go change him," right? Well, remember, Eric's 8 years old, and he's about the size of an 8-year-old, which is much bigger than typical kids in diapers. And so I walked him back to the bathroom, and in the bathrooms they have these little lay-down tables that hang on the wall. Well, those aren't really designed for the length or the weight of 8-year-olds. But I really didn't have any other choice. So, I'm trying to be careful. I flip him up on there. I start to change him, and he's way too big, and he's way too long. And as I start to change him, I'm lifting his legs, and he's pulling that whole thing where they stiffen up. You know what I'm talking about? So he stiffens up, and he's really heavy, and I'm really fighting him. And I'm trying not to break the table, and I'm trying to make sure I'm just trying to clean him well, and all this stuff is going on. I'm paying real close attention. I don't want him to fall or the thing to break or to hurt himself. All this stuff is going on, and I'm trying to contain myself, and I'm sweating. He's heavy, and I'm fighting him, and finally I get the diaper in and put it in and back, and I'm thinking, okay, I got it all done, right? And I'm sweating. Sweat is pouring down my face. Remember, I'm at church. Have a tie on. I'm sure my collar's all brown. And so I walk back into the church, and I walk to the end of the pew, and Eric sits down, and my wife looks at me and smiles with her beautiful smile, and then her face turns to kind of this horrified look. And I'm thinking, well, what is it, right? Well, the one thing I had missed was that when I had lifted him and turned to throw the diaper into the trash can, he had whizzed all down my pant leg. And I mean, I had a 3-foot long, 1 foot wide strip, and I was wearing khakis. So when khakis get wet, they turn just dark brown. I had just big giant, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, and I sat down, and I was just defeated. I mean, I sat there, sweat's pouring off me. I'm just sitting there, and I know I was slumping, and I'm sure I didn't look like I was happy to be in church, and I just was entirely defeated from that experience. And looking back now, I remember it just wasn't funny. It was just terrible. And I just remember it just kind of sapped my energy for the entire day going through that process. Well, a couple of weeks later, I happened to what I thought at the time was make a mistake, but it turned out to be something I really needed to learn. And that's that I decided to share with my brother, my older brother Craig, the story about Eric and his diapers at church. And as I told him, he started laughing. And he started laughing hard. And it wasn't funny to me, remember. I had experienced this traumatic experience, right? And I'm telling him, he's just dying laughing. I said, "It's not funny." He said, "Oh, it's funny." And he's laughing. I said, "It's not funny." And we got into this, and the more he laughed, the more I couldn't help but start to laugh, right? And then I realized I just kind of had that aha moment, right? It really was funny. As you could tell as I told you the story, I smiled as I told you the story. Because really it was kind of funny, ultimately. I mean, it's something that happens. There's really no way around it, right? And I started to think about that. How things that happen in our lives, a lot of times the good stories of things that happen good, and even the bad stories when things happen bad, when we tell them to other people, generally, we tell them with a smile on our face, right? And if that's the case, then why don't we just, if we're going to enjoy the story later as we're telling it to people, and we're going to smile, why can't we enjoy the story as it's happening, right? Now, I know it's a lot easier said than done, but I really at that moment decided, right? I kind of had this aha moment, and I thought, I can't be the only one who deals with this kind of stuff, right? And so from that point forward, I started to look for those crazy, wacky, just jacked up stories that I could tell people. And when things went crazy and would happen wrong, instead of saying, oh no, right? I would say, oh yes, this is going to be a great story, right? And I remember started telling my family about this. And as we sat around, I said, here's what we need to do. When things go wrong, we need to capture these in our brains and then write them down, right? And we started a blog as a family. We started posting these stories. And then when things would happen, we'd look at each other and go, oh boy, this is going to be great, right? And I remember the first time we did it as a family, we were sitting in the Burger King playland, and the kids were all playing up in the playground. And at the time, Ricky, my number 4 son, had this problem wearing pants. Now, I know I'm not the only one. I've seen other kids that didn't like to wear pants, right? But we had trained him pretty well. When he was in the house, he could take his pants off. But when he was outside, he had to keep them on. So anytime he'd go outside, he'd have his pants on. We trained him. We thought we had it. But anytime he came inside, he'd just flip them off. We were okay with that. We didn't want to fight that battle too often, right? Because he was little. Well, so we're at the Burger King playland. He goes to the very top, right? And I can see him through the bubble. And all of a sudden, I hear something slide down the slide, and it's his pants. And I look up at the top, and he's standing up there naked. And he's slapping his rear end, and he's yelling at me, Dad, 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 right? And I'm like, oh my God. And as soon as I said, oh my gosh, then I went, oh my gosh. This is going to be a great story to tell, right? And so I looked at my kids, and they were like, Dad, this is going to be great, you know. So one of my boys slid up there, put his pants back on him, and he did it a couple times that evening. But every time he did, we just cracked up, and we enjoyed. We laughed during those moments, right? If it's going to happen and we're going to tell those stories later with a smile on our face, why not enjoy those moments while they happen, even if they're embarrassing or difficult or wacky or crazy? And I've written a whole book of those stories because we decided as a family from that aha moment. And so what I want you to do this week is decide right now, when things go wrong or when things start to get wacky or crazy or turmoil starts, say, this is going to be a great story. Right? And then as you go through it, you'll be happier. And you'll learn to manage it better. And then you can smile even as things go wrong. And that's what I want you to do this week. I want you to decide to say, oh yes, when you see something crazy going on. Or when things go wrong, and say, this is an opportunity for me to get a good story and tell it. And if you need to, email me. Tell me the story. I want to hear it. Or create a little video of yourself and send it to me via email. I want to hear your stories. I want to know that you've taken and you've decided that if you're going to tell the story later and you're going to smile while it's happening. That's what I want you to do this week. And I'm telling you right now, if you'll do that, you'll start to thrive as chaos occurs. As things go crazy or wacky, you can start to smile and say, oh yes, this is going to be a great story to tell. So here's our plan for this week. Look for crazy, look for wacky, look for zany. And when it happens, don't let it scare you or frighten you or defeat you. Instead of saying, oh no, say, oh yes, this is going to be a great story to tell. And tell me that story. I'm looking forward to getting your video or your email this week. Focus on that this week, and let's thrive this week.